Hello, I'm Derek and welcome back to Coach's Corner. This is a podcast designed for professional coaches looking to develop themselves in the fitness industry and improve their one-to-one coaching business. So in this episode, I'm joined by special guest Frankie Clark and we look into self-sabotage when building a PT business. So I worked with Frankie back in 2019 at GymBox, but since then Frankie has left London, moved up to Newcastle, and she is now running a very successful PT business up there, as well as an online coaching business. So alongside her PT works, Frankie is also studying a degree in psychology. So let's bring her on. Hello, Frankie.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good,
Yeah,
I'm good,
how
thanks. I'm good, thank you. Welcome to the podcast. So, Frankie, today's subject is self-sabotage when building a PT business, and we started talking a bit about this the other day when we was having to catch up, and I thought it would be a good episode. So let's talk about you first. Give a bit of an intro into you, your PT journey, so where you started, and then we'll go into what is meant by self-sabotage and then how people can get over that. So let's talk about your PT journey first. So where did you start? How you got into GymBox, your classes you've been doing, and then everything you've been doing up north.
Okay, well, mine's a bit of a scattered journey. So, I never actually thought I'd be a PT. It was never something that I set out to do. Followed the kind of progress path of you go to school, you go to uni, and then you do something in business, work your way up the ladder, and then become like some kind of ECM member. But I struggled with an eating disorder all the way through school from a really young age, about 13, 14. And when it got really bad to the point where I was in hospital a couple of times, I couldn't get help when I needed it. There was no space on the NHS. Wait lists were really long. Family couldn't, pay for anything. So my only option was a government-funded scheme. And when I looked online, there was one about nutrition and exercise, which seemed very hot topic for me at the time. That was something that I did, and that was with a company up in Durham. They did it on behalf of the government, and it was really good. Really enjoyed it, but it wasn't something that I did as work. So I went back down to London, was working in pharmaceuticals, doing HR kind of advertising stuff. Right. And a couple of my colleagues when I were there were saying how I was in really good shape and can they come to the gym with me? And I was like, well, I'm actually a PT as well. So I started training a couple people just on the side. And that's kind of how it started. It was a bit of a side hustle, and I really wasn't enjoying my job. It was just not me, didn't find any purpose or anything. So then I moved home to be with a boyfriend at the time. So we moved back to Newcastle, and I didn't have a job. I was applying for loads of jobs, wasn't getting anything. Tried getting into Procter & Gamble again, didn't get into that. So he was like, why don't you just use your PT degree and just try and get some clients? So that's initially where it started, doing one-to-one PT in a really small studio gym that was a combat gym. It was Mac the Knife, MTK. I guess he's the reason why I got into that. But then as time went on, I realized how much I actually really enjoyed helping people feel more confident, because it's something I'd struggled with. And started learning more about the nutrition. So then did more nutrition courses. Moved back down to London, met you, got to know a little bit more about PT. Did 2 different gyms in London. So I started off at Mob 45, moved over to GymBox, got really to grips with walking the floor. And that's where I built my confidence. I felt like that was the most terrifying thing for me. And then after that, obviously, lockdown happened and I just transitioned online. I didn't want to give it up. I did for about a month. And I was sat around doing nothing, doing what everyone was doing, feeling sorry for myself, no clients, no job. And then I just thought, sod this. I saw other people doing it online. So I just started doing it, and it's just blossomed from there into a bit of everything. It's more towards life coaching now than what it is just PT, which is amazing. So
Yeah, quite a journey.
It's a long journey.
But when you moved back to Newcastle after COVID, you also started doing classes and everything up there. You was working at the rugby club, right? Or
well remembered. So at the very beginning, I started doing Zoom classes. And then when there was that group of 6 thing where you're allowed to be outside socializing with 6, I was just sick of being online. And loads of my friends at home were like, can you please do a boot camp? So I did that group of 6 outside and the local football manager. So I asked the rugby club, but had decided that the football ground was better suited to me. And then it just obviously blossomed from there. Last summer, there was about 20, 30 people coming to this boot camp, all paying. It was all great. And it just slowly, became something different.
It's you know, I do job interviews every week at GymBox where we run the recruitment days, and it's always good to hear someone's journey. And there's always this COVID section in their PT journey. Well, I was doing all this, then COVID happened, and then I did this, and it was so good to see how PTs adapted, and it was about trying to adapt and then being open to new ideas, trying something new. Like nothing in me wanted to do a Zoom session for a PT session, but now I still do them. I love them. It's just something you had to just adapt, learn, and add your own spin on. And then you're right, the way you kind of got into PT. PT is a job where you get some people that go from school, do some form of sixth form, uni degree, then get into PT, but normally it's through people that have trained all their life, started a career, got people skills and life skills from that career, and then transitioned over to PT. It's a job where it's not always like school straight into PT. It's a job where you go through a little journey, then you come back and choose a passion or something you love, and then you get into fitness. So well, thanks for sharing that. So then, and with online, you're right, because we get a lot of people join GymBox that say, I tried online for a bit and I love it, but I also want to have a hybrid model where I can still work in person as well. Where they have like a home, somewhere to work, somewhere to get clients from, and then they do that alongside online, where they have a bit of a hybrid model. And I think that's the most common approach to PT at the moment, and that's what you're running, right? In person as well as online coaching.
Yeah, I do a bit of both. So, I mean, at the minute I have one-to-one PT in person in a gym. Then I've got access to a studio gym. My online side, there's two different sides of online PT for me. So I basically differentiate them between online PT, which is where you're on a Zoom link with me or a secure network. And the other one is your online coaching, which is where I give you your programs and your nutrition plan. And then we do calls to like catch up, do a coaching call. And that's more around the psychotherapy side of things, looking into why we have those self-sabotaging like things that we do and just identifying what they are.
So let's start talking about that. So you've then, as you've kind of grown, got your client base, become like successful, you've also then tried to niche down a lot more. And that's what you do now, isn't it? You've got quite a niche product and you've kind of got a target market that you attract now.
Yeah, I remember being in GymBox when I first moved over, and like all the PTs, about 8 of them came up to me like, what's your niche? And I was like, my niche? They were like, what's your niche? I was like, I train women who struggle with their body image. And they were like, that's everyone's niche. What's your niche? And I just didn't know how to fine tune it. And I think I just didn't know because I hadn't had enough experience. And I hadn't really found my vocation. So yeah, at the minute, I think because of what I've been through, I'm so passionate about people getting the right service. And I'm very passionate about people looking after themselves. And that's come from my own therapy journey and what I've had to do for myself. I've struggled a lot with staying on track with things. Like obviously I've had my own self-sabotaging behaviors, and we've all been through going out with drinks with friends and then it just never ending, or trying to do something and doing it all or nothing. So I've been really trying to home in on why that happens. And it just made sense. I was having a conversation with my therapist one day and I was like, I just want to be able to change people's lives. I've had like clients coming to me, talking to me about their situations similar to what I talk to you about. And I can't help them. I'm not qualified and I don't want to step over that line. And she said, well, who says you can't be qualified? So then that's when I thought, I'm just going to do it. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on this podcast, so I'm trying not to swear. It's really difficult.
You can swear. Our members are fine. All PTs. This is a podcast for PTs.
Yeah, true.
Okay. All right. Well, let's dive deeper into that then. So, let's talk about self-sabotage when it comes to building a business and things you felt you were doing and you notice amongst yourself, because it's quite a journey transferring to PT and building a business, and PT struggle with so much. They're battling so much. I did a podcast with Jenny a few weeks ago on imposter syndrome, which is an area where a lot of people do struggle, and people either get that clinically or they get a form of that. What about let's talk about self-sabotage and what you noticed when you were doing through your PT journey with growing a client base.
So, I mean, easiest place to start is like, what is self-sabotage? It's basically something that you do to sabotage yourself from getting success. And it doesn't have to be in awareness. It can be out of awareness. So it's stuff that we do every day without even realizing. Like, for example, snoozing your alarm, first thing of self-sabotage, because you're going to make yourself tired. Little things along the way, but that can come in all forms. It can come in forms of action. It can come in forms of belief systems or communication. There's also certain things like, when somebody triggers you, if somebody makes you angry, it's not what they're saying, it's how it affects you. And not having the awareness of that is then self-sabotaging, because you will act in a certain way to defend yourself or protect yourself. So for me, one of the main things for me, I used to always be about what it looked like. I always used to feel, I guess that's part of my eating disorder background, is I had to be perfect. I guess, in psychotherapy, there's different drivers for things. So like if you don't have, so for example, if you've got a not good enough driver, you will constantly keep driving to get the best thing. And for me, I had a be perfect driver. So everything had to look perfect. Everything had to be perfect. So when things weren't going well, I wouldn't tell anyone. I wouldn't ask for help. I would sit and try and figure it out. But marry that with undiagnosed ADHD, depression, anxiety. Like, it was no wonder that I struggled so much. So yeah, if you can try and acknowledge what your self-sabotaging behaviors are, that's going to allow you to build the confidence to not do those things. So like, for example, me asking for help, when I first started asking you for help, and I remember there was one of the other PT coaches who was quite close to me, and I would just literally ask them all the time, like, how do I ask this client this? Or, I've had someone cancel, what do I do? And even just talking to other PTs who had so much experience, it felt like competition, and I felt like I had to look perfect. But actually, when I built the courage to admit that it wasn't perfect and that I was struggling and I was losing clients, that's when the other PTs stepped in to help. And actually, I saw them as not competition anymore, as friends and allies.
Yeah. Okay. So asking for help, that's not like from a therapist, that's just from asking for help to do the actual task you're struggling with.
Yeah, I think I got to a point. So the first 3 months of any PT journey is brutal. Like, you have to be confident to just approach random people with their headphones in. And it is, you really self-criticize and you think, oh, what should I have said? Or why have they just shunned me away? You get a lot of no's. One of the first thing I was told is you will get 100 no's and 1 yes. You've just got to keep going. And that's really hard, because you question, why did they say no? Why was I not good enough to be their PT? Or do they not think I'm experienced enough? And I didn't ask for help until it got to the point where I think I'd been crying in the bathroom, and one of the PTs came in. She was like, what's wrong? Are you okay? And I was like, I just can't seem to hold a client or secure a client. And we sat down and she went, right, okay. And she was like going through different strategies that she used. And like, granted, now it's not the strategy that I use, but at that time, it's what I needed to be able to survive. And I think one of the most important things to note in a PT journey, you cannot compare to anyone for one, but there are different stages for different reasons. So there was a point where I was discounting services just so that I could pay my bills. There was times when I would adapt my service, not just the pricing, so that I could keep clients. And as you go on and you become more confident and people see what you're good at, that's when they start to gravitate towards you. Like if you hit someone's niche, for example. But yeah, that was really key in the first 3 months for me.
Yeah. Okay, so then let's talk about then you on the other side of that, the journey you've been on and the momentum you've gained as you've noticed you've been self-sabotaging. When was like the big change for you to get to where you are now?
That's a really good question. I don't think there's one moment in time. I mean, there's a couple that I can think of, but everything adds up. So I guess for me, when COVID happened and things kind of got to rock bottom, and that was kind of confirmation that I'd failed, even though it wasn't my job that I'd failed. When I started the online Zoom classes, there was 3 or 4 people turning up and they were all my friends. And it was just so that I could try and spread awareness. Like, thank God they were there for me, because that really did help. And just having that to show the world enabled people to go, all right, okay, she's doing something and other people are turning up. It looks good. So when I started doing the Zoom classes, I think because people were joining, it gave me a sense of self-belief of like, I can do this. And it very quickly grew to the point where before the second lockdown in the November or October, I decided to move to Dubai. And I'd had enough of being locked in the house with my mum. My mum had just had breast cancer. It had been an extremely depressive patch for me. And I just thought, fuck it, like I need to get out of here. So I did. And I moved, and I knew that I had that consistent income from my Zoom classes. Yeah. And being in a completely different country, challenging myself and just throwing myself in the deep end, and still being able to maintain that online business and also secure clients in Dubai, that was a huge confidence builder. But had I not have, positively critiqued myself for once, then I don't think I would be where I am. So when I say positively critique, there's a thing called transactional analysis, which people can go and have a look at. And it's one of the most important things I think people do for their business. Because if you've got self-awareness of what you do and how you are and how you talk to yourself, you can talk yourself out of it. So there's parent, adult, child in every psyche and every person. Your parent doesn't have to necessarily be your parent. It can be anyone who's had an influence on you, but one's critical and one's nurturing. And you can imagine someone like your mum or your dad's either nurturing or critical, right? Your adult is very factual, like we are sitting on a podcast now. There's no emotion attached. But your child can either be a free child, like really excitable, or really adaptive, which is emotional. And what I had been sitting in my whole life was the critical parent of you're not good enough. And then my child being triggered of, see, you are shit. Like, don't bother doing anything. You're always going to fail. So over that course of time throughout lockdown, I've obviously been still doing my therapy, but those people coming to my classes and giving me that self-belief, I started to listen to them. And that was my nurturing parent and also an adult figure of it's really factual. And as I moved to Dubai, again, it was a positive critique. It was, if you move and put yourself in a difficult situation, you will learn from it and grow. And that's what I did. I obviously came back and I had that confidence of, I've been able to be successful abroad. I'm one of those people who can go and make a business. And sometimes you do have to have those cocky moments to actually believe in yourself. But it's not cocky. Like you think it's cocky. You think somebody saying, I'm good at my job is cocky. It's not. It's self-confidence and being able to say I'm good.
Yeah. I totally forgot you went to Dubai. What was that? It wasn't that long. It was about 8 months or so, wasn't it? Something.
No, it was a lot shorter. So I was actually only there for about 3 months, but I was originally only going to go for a month, but then the lockdown just kept getting extended.
You just
and
stayed,
I didn't fly in. I couldn't get back. I couldn't get tests. I couldn't. So I just stayed for the whole time. I was looking for an apartment, but the apartments were a minimum lease of 6 months. So I was just living it up in a hotel, burning money away. Yeah. It was great.
Yeah, I totally forgot you went to Dubai. Okay, so then trusting the process and noticing the change. Let's talk about then like how you gain momentum, how you focus on self-love, how you focus on the positive side of talking to yourself and growing.
Yeah. It's really hard. Yeah. Have you been there as well? And do you find it hard? Or did you find it hard?
Oh, I battle stuff all the time with this coach's corner, with jumping on podcasts, thinking, is anybody going to listen? What's the point of all this time and energy? But I know the bigger picture of it. I think if you teach at all, you do. I think if you teach, like I teach lessons every month. So because I'm always standing up in front of people, I go through my own battles of like, is my stuff good enough? Is this what people want to hear? Am I the right authority to do this? And even I go through stuff like that, and I've got nothing but results and testimonials from PTs I worked with.
So we all do it. This is the whole point.
Yeah.
Everybody who's listening,
and ideas I have. Sometimes I'm just sitting there looking at. I've got 2 whiteboards here. I've got a to-do list and a ideas board, and sometimes I'm just throwing stuff on the ideas board and like, is this the way to go? Do you think this is a good idea? And I don't know. Yeah.
We all doubt ourselves, and I think that voice that you have in your head, sometimes you listen to it because it's the right thing to do and because it's protecting you, right? It's protecting you from saying the wrong thing or doing the wrong thing or coming across the wrong way and ultimately sabotaging your entire business. Yeah. But sometimes it's just a voice that really just doesn't care about how you feel. And there comes a point where you just go, shut the fuck up. Like, you turn the volume down. And that's where it got for me. I think I got to that point where I was just so sick of being so nasty to myself that I just thought, I'm going to try it another way. It's the same with people who come to us for PT, right? They get to a point in their life where they've just hit a rock bottom and they're like, I can't do it anymore. I can't be like this. I need to find another way because it feels like there's nothing else I can do. And you've sometimes just got to do that for yourself. If you're being so frustrated with yourself and your business, you've just got to try something else.
Yeah, and you know the good old New Year's, New Year, new me, and
New
all that.
me.
The thing is, like with New Year, I actually do like setting New Year's resolutions and making a plan, because I think it's good to look back on your achievements of the year. If you don't
Yeah.
assess your year and look how far you've come, because we're always developing, there's always so much that happen on it within a year, and you can be really hard on yourself of why isn't this grown, why isn't this where it needs to be, which I'm going through now. But also there's so much positive that has happened, and it's important to always look back at the positives and then look forward to the next year of like what big things could be. And so I'm actually a fan of the new year reset
New
button,
year, new
and
me, new goals. Yeah.
yeah.
And what you're doing there in psychology is you're resetting your adult button. So when you
Right.
get so, like, by the end of the year, when you're like, why am I not where I want to be? That's really critical. And it's your critical parent critiquing you. But then it's triggering your child that's, emotional and like, oh, I'm just going to throw it all in. But then there's this part of you, which is your adult you, which is like, I've put way too much time and effort into this. And I know it will work. There's like a little light inside you that just knows. So when you are looking back over the year, you're going over facts. That's not possible hypothetical futures. If you look back over what you've achieved, like even for you, like building your podcast, building your YouTube channel, you have got views, you have got really good camera, you've been able to understand how your systems work. Had you have started now, you'd have to then relearn all those 6 to 12 months of information. So it's factual. You're giving yourself a really strong dose of confidence, because confidence comes from positive facts or things that positively affect you that you can't argue with. So if you've ever had a client, if there's a PT here and you're worrying that you're never going to be able to secure a client, if you've ever had a client, you absolutely can do it. And looking back on what you've achieved with your PT business, even if it's just setting up your Instagram page, step in the right direction, you've got something, you can do it. Do you know what I mean?
So then, like, looking back and trying to see your value, look at clients' testimonials, transformations, and look at all those positive wins you've got for those clients, and be proud
Yeah,
of them. Yeah.
literally. Like if I sat and looked back at, I've had multiple knocks this year. Like I was diagnosed with ADHD, and for the first week I felt euphoric and was like, oh my God, it makes so much sense. And then the next 3 months after that, so that was March. The following 3 months, it was this picking out all of my flaws. And it wasn't flaws. It was like my flaws. It was the flaws of this thing that I have, like, oh, I'm unorganized, oh, I'm messy, oh, I forget things. You're constantly forgetting you've got a client at this time, or you haven't put it in your diary, and you can feel like a massive failure, like, oh, other people who are successful wouldn't do this. Every single person in life will have an element of ADHD. But if I focused on that, and if I focused on some of the issues I've had with my health that have stopped me from being able to train and therefore not look like a PT because I don't have abs, I would be in this place where I would just want to throw the towel in and feel like nothing makes me happy. And it's really important that you understand that self-sabotage. And if you look back on the positive things that you've achieved, what a different feeling it gives you. It gives you hope, ambition, drive, motivation, inspiration. And then it makes you want to write down on your vision board for next year all the things that you think are so far out of reach that actually in 2 years, you're probably going to be like, right, achieve that. What do I do next? Do you know what I mean?
So, okay, so let's try to not kind of sum up, but like let's try to give some people some points. So what would you be like I don't want to put a number on it, but like let's just list some points of one to notice you're self-sabotaging, and then what to do about it.
Okay. Well, I think it's a bit much to say go to therapy, because that's not the best journey sometimes. It gives you lots of self-awareness, but it can sometimes open Pandora's box, and people can't always be ready for that. So I guess instead of just giving you the generic seek some help, I think the first thing you could do is have a look at some of the things that you tell yourself. Whenever you have an intrusive thought, write it down. And you'll very quickly notice a trend. And when you have those thoughts, ask yourself, is that something you'd say to your best friend? And if it's
Right.
not, then we should probably put a line through that one on the piece of paper. So that's first one. I think second, maybe, people have mentors or they have business coaches or PT coaches, for example. Getting a second opinion can give you a lot of facts, and you have to be really
Yeah.
careful who you pick as that person. You need to trust them. And if you trust the wrong person, then yeah, they are going to knock you down. So make sure it's someone you trust, but get a second opinion and be open and authentic. The best thing I ever did was going to an accountant and giving him all my financials and being like, I'm terrified. I don't know if I'm going to get caught for tax evading or I don't know if I'm overcharging, or how do I track my income? How do I not do bank transfers? All that kind of thing, which obviously you taught me. But not doing that, I had this massive worry constantly. So yeah, if there's something you're struggling with, write it down, and who can help you with that, ask for help. I don't know what else I would suggest.
Okay. And then just something positive, like what could you constantly do to
Yeah.
lock in positive self-talk?
Yeah. People say this all the time. And at first I was like, oh, it's so arty-farty. It's never going to work. It's doing your gratitudes. It sounds so
Right.
ridiculous. But if you wake up in the morning and the first thing you do is think of 3 things, or even just one thing that you're grateful for, you create new neuron connections in your brain. It's a proven fact. And there's different parts of your brain that will start firing quicker. Like for you, when someone says, what exercises can I do with dumbbells? You could list 100, right? But when you first started doing PT, you could probably list maybe 5 or 6, and you'd be like, oh, actually, you could do this one as well. It's a slow process. So when you do gratitudes, you're slowly training your brain to look at positive things and to look at the positive in everything. And I've just noticed since I've been doing that the last couple of years, even the shit situations, I can always pull a positive. And had I not have been doing my gratitudes, probably wouldn't have been able to do that.
Yeah, well, the thing is, it's so easy to be negative all the time. It's hard to be positive all the time. It is. It's easy to find a negative in any situation if you want to. Like if people, it's the same with like the people you hang around with. In past gyms I've worked in, if there's like a staff room, do you ever find sometimes people get together and just whinge and just complain? And it's just like,
Yeah.
they don't always get together and just have a positive. But if someone wants to whinge about something, other people come over and whinge, and then it's just negative energy. It's just a waste of energy. And I always found, like, if we bring this back to PTs that are doing well don't have time to whinge. They don't want that negative energy. They don't want to complain about stuff. They're too busy to complain. But if something's not going right for somebody, they'll just start whinging at different stuff in the gym. And I think trying to stay positive all the time is hard. So any people you hang around can make a big difference. Like, I always get a positive ray whenever I talk to you. You're a positive boost of energy.
Likewise.
And we don't really ever call each other up just to whinge and complain. Because if we did, there probably wouldn't be enough time for that call, right? Because then one of us will bring each other down, and there's a time for that, and there's a couple of people you reach to. But in general, it's trying to find a positive out of every situation instead of a negative is definitely the way to go.
Yeah. I'm getting from what you're saying that you're talking about what it feels like. So if you're trying to stay positive, yes, it's hard, but why do you do it? Because it feels better than being negative. And if you are constantly in those cycles around the wrong people, you then don't achieve what you want to achieve. You're then more critical towards yourself, but then you're still stuck in that circle. So I guess, yeah, that is definitely something that is easy. There's a thing called games. There's a book called The Games People Play, and it is really interesting, and it's something your clients will play with you, your loved ones, everything. And if anyone wants to take anything away from this podcast, it's do your gratitudes. Don't be self-critical and read that book. But the reason why is because that book tells you how you get caught like a fish on a hook in those games, and it puts you on a drama triangle, like where you're either joining in or you're not. And you become, when you step off the games and when you step off the drama triangle, it's because you're in your adult self. You're seeing the facts, like, this isn't helping me with my business. And you start moving away from those people. And there is a huge sense of loss and grief when you lose friends, or when you lose a certain close relationship that doesn't serve you anymore. But actually what it does, when people say it's creating a space for something else to come in, it literally is. To people, you seem not like a drama. You seem really on your shit and you're doing well. But then other people who are doing well want to collaborate with you because they can see you're not a drama. And it has such a positive impact. But, you know, being able to get off that critical and child state stops you from playing those games. And then you obviously focus more on your business does better, everything does better. You then can stay more positive more easily. So yeah, it's a huge cycle, I guess, where it just keeps going. So yeah, positivity is key.
Your degree that you're currently doing, how long have you got left to finish it?
I'm only in my first year, so I've got another 3 years. So I do 2 years on this one, which is psychotherapeutic counselling, which is talking through people's traumas and helping them reframe it and feel more strong. And then I do a 3rd year sandwich course, which is where I then do a little bit of neuroscience and psychology/psychotherapy. And then in the final year, it's full-blown psychotherapy, learning about the brain and all the wonderful theories that we have.
To then try to combine this with your PT to make some form of product. So
everyone's going to have a client who comes and talks about something. And as PTs, we can fall very close in that place of trying to give advice. But I don't know about you, every time you've given advice, someone's never taken it, right? And they just keep coming to you with the same issues over and over. And you're like, oh yeah, like your boyfriend's like so mean to you, or like your boss is so rude, or whatever it is. Until you're able to give them the tools, then they're never going to change their life. And you can read as many Atomic Habit books as you want, self-care books. You need to understand why you're doing those behaviors. And this was the only logical reason. So if people want to change their life, they want to shape up, they want to stop feeling how they're feeling and having these cycles of doing really well or not doing well, that's where I come in. So it looks after your body and your mind. And it's not like a routine that you follow forever. It's you have the tools to make your own decisions with your life. So yeah, I'm really excited about it, and I'm hoping that I can like speed up my course, because I'm like dying to do it now. Yeah. Like I have sign off for certain things. I can work with certain people for certain things. Yeah. But anything that's like deep trauma, I can't do.
You need to wait a bit longer. Right, very good. How do people find you, Frankie? What's your Instagram? What's your TikTok?
I thought you meant like find me as in like, do they like you? Do they not? I was like, well, I hope everyone likes me. No, not everyone likes me. So my Instagram is Frankie G Clark. My YouTube is Frankie G Clark. That's not really too much fitnessy. I've stopped doing that. And then my TikTok, also Frankie G Clark. That's a montage of just me being me. So there's lots of PT stuff on there, but there's also just fun stuff, my personality, etc.
Fun stuff such as you singing live on the Channel 4 show. What was that one? What was that show called again?
I Can See Your Voice.
I Can See Your Voice with Jimmy Carr.
Yeah, that was so fun.
Yeah. How did you get on that?
Jimmy Carr, Amanda Holden. Oh, who else was there? Paddy McGuinness was hosting it. Tony Hadley was the one. You know, the guy who goes, gold, always believe in yourself. That guy. So actually, I was scouted for Love Island twice and turned it down because I was in relationships. And then the 3rd time, I just said no. Like, I didn't get on it last time. Like, I know I'm in a relationship. I basically got cast for it when I met Andy, who's my now partner who I'm living with. But at the time, we just started dating, so I was like, it's not worth it.
So probably going on Love Island wouldn't have been the best idea.
I know, can you imagine? I was like,
I'll be back in a few weeks.
See when I'm out on the outside. So she said, well, if you don't want to do Love Island, I know you sing, so do you want to do a singing program? And I was like, absolutely. So she cast me for that, and we did like loads of Zoom calls because it was still kind of COVID-y. That was really good fun. I've just had a couple more singing stuff come through, so I mean, what was a hobby is now starting to turn into something else, which is really exciting.
Well, fair play for getting on stage and singing live and having that amount of pressure. Fair play to you.
Do you know what, though? Do you know what helped me with it? Walking the gym floor.
Yeah. If you can walk the gym floor, your nails, nothing will phase you after that.
You will not fear anything ever again if you can nail that.
That's so true. Right, Frankie, thanks for coming on. I'll put your Instagram and everything just in the tags around the podcast. So give Frankie a follow her journey. If you've got any questions about anything we covered, then just reach out to Frankie and I'm sure she'll answer them. And if you, especially if you've been on a similar journey to Frankie, then please just drop her a message. Right, guys, thanks for listening. Thank you for being on, Frankie. And I'll be back next week with another podcast. Wherever you've been watching this, if you're watching it on YouTube and you like these sort of episodes, then please give it a like and subscribe. And then if you're listening on Spotify, then please save the channel just so you can see other episodes as they come up. Right, thanks for watching and listening, guys. Thanks for being on, Frankie. And I'll see you guys next week.